Getting us more on this is our correspondent Nick Harper, who's joining us over the phone line. Nick Harper, it's still peak time as we speak in New York. Give us a sense of what you're picking up from the scene of where this explosion occurred.
Yeah, you mentioned a chaotic scene really down in New York at the moment during the busiest time of the day. This is the commuter rush hour time of the day. This explosion happening a short while ago, really as people were heading to work for the beginning of the working week. What we know so far is that there has been one explosion. It's unclear whether or not that's an explosion that went off or whether it was a controlled explosion carried out by police. But those unconfirmed reports that potentially it was a pipe bomb. We also know at this stage that one person has been injured. No deaths so far reported, just one non-life-threatening injury. And somebody, police say, is in custody for what has taken place this morning during the busiest time of the day in New York City.
Nick, there are also reports suggesting that a pipe bomb could have been used. Do we have more details, if any, on that front?
No, at this stage, this is something that isn't being confirmed, but it is something that is of concern to authorities here in New York. Just over a year ago, last September 2016, there were a number of pipe bomb attacks in Manhattan and in the neighboring state of New Jersey. Those pipe bomb attacks, somebody was arrested for that, and he is working his way through the court system at the moment. But it is obviously of concern that we have seen a very recent terror attack of a very different nature, a terror attack where a man used a truck to drive down a cyclist's path, killing 8 people just a month or so ago. At this stage, there isn't any suggestion that this could potentially be terrorism, but if there is a pipe bomb involved, if somebody is in custody, then this could be a very fast-moving investigation with all of the potential authorities involved in trying to get to the bottom of what happened.
And to those who might not be aware, Nick, establish for our viewers the significance of the Port Authority bus terminal. It is presumably one of the largest and one of the busiest bus terminals in New York City.
Absolutely, yes. This is the Port Authority bus terminal is a real hub for transport in New York City. It's towards the west side of the city, so towards the Hudson River. It has a lot of transport coming into it from neighbouring New Jersey. Thousands of people pouring into the city from New Jersey every single day, coming into Port Authority. But there's also subway lines that connect with it as well. And it is a place that is a real hub, a place where people will change buses, change trains, change subway trains, but also a starting point and an ending point for people to get to and from Manhattan itself. So thousands of people coming in every single day, millions of people commuting through Port Authority during the course of the year. And so the fact that this has been a place where we have seen an explosion this morning has just caused even more problems, even more chaos in New York City.
Nick, also this of course coming at a time, as we have been pointing to our viewers, this is a peak time as we speak. The number of those taking that bus terminal and the significance of that spot, as we've just discussed, this of course creates ripples of panic across New York City, to say the least. Apart from the initial information that of course the police officials have been tight-lipped about, do we know more about the kind of security measures that have been put in place around the major arterial bus terminals elsewhere as well?
Well, certainly we have seen an uptick in security over recent weeks, especially since that terrorist attack in which 8 people died. That was on Halloween night, so October the 31st. And in the wake of that, we saw a huge increase, a huge police presence, really ramped up right across the city. Walking around New York City over the last few weeks, there has been police officers almost on every single corner. And then on top of that, New York City already has a very robust counter-terrorism unit, many more of those police out on the streets. And for some of the big events that we've had recently, so for example, the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade, the New York Marathon, both of those took place in November. police teams increased their presence to putting snipers in rooftop positions, overlooking some of the parade route, overlooking some of the marathon course route. It is something they have had to step up. So with something like this happening, we already had an increased presence, but they will have to increase it even further. And we are, of course, let's not forget, 2 weeks out from Christmas. It is a key tourist time of year for New York City. Many, many people right from across the world come to New York at this time of year to enjoy the festivities, to see the Christmas trees, to see the window shop displays. So with even more people in the city, and with a recent terror attack that police have had to deal with, there was already this heightened alert for the city. This will undoubtedly put the city even more on edge.
All right, we're going to leave it there for the moment. Nick Harper, our correspondent, getting us the latest from New York, which has been struck, unfortunately, with another explosion. This one being reported from the Port Authority bus terminal. As Nick was just pointing out, one of the busiest and one of the largest bus terminals in New York City. Those are the live images also that we're getting to you from Manhattan. Let's go also straight across to our correspondent, Archit Jadri, who's joining us from the newsroom for more on this. Archit, as Nick was just pointing out, this comes very close on the heels of the earlier attack that was witnessed around Halloween as well. As a result of that, security being intensified over the last few days and weeks. This incident, assuming significance, coming at a time like this, it's a peak time at a bus terminal. Thousands are commuting at that point of time to try and get to work.
Absolutely, Molly. You know, situations like this certainly has everyone on edge in New York City, especially the time between Thanksgiving as well as Christmas. There's a lot of extra security, a lot of extra patrols in and around the New York City region. Of course, Thanksgiving when they have the big Macy's parade there. So there's a lot of people, a lot of traffic. This is Monday morning. This all happened about an hour ago, around 7:30 in the morning. Witnesses say they heard some sort of explosion. That's when people started running for cover, scrambling. Right now, the very latest information we're getting, in fact, the NYPD just sending in this update a short while ago, and minutes ago, in fact, saying that with regards to the explosion at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, police have arrested one male suspect. That is the update. A male suspect in custody. No injuries, no other suspects involved at this time. Many of the subways passing through the Port Authority and Times Square stations are skipping that area. They've also evacuated the A line, the C line, and the E line, and many of the other areas in and around Times Square at this hour. No word on what type of device was used, but certainly we also have to quickly recognize the fact that the authorities were able to jump in on the scene, get the situation resolved
and as we
before it went in big.
They're running against time to try and contain the situation, and also very scanty information that is trickling in from the spot. Let's also get in further perspectives from senior journalist Fatima Rahmatullah, who's joining us on the broadcast. Appreciate your speaking with us here, Fatima. Give us a sense of what we know so far. Very little information, of course, coming in as we speak.
Yeah, as you can imagine, people are scrambling. There's a lot of, it's Monday morning, it's the height of the commute right now. People are usually getting up, going into work, so it's pretty much chaos at Port Authority right now. We're talking about thousands of people that go into work using that station, and now they're kind of just waiting there. They're not able to get out. They're not able to get in as police investigate. So huge chaos. Police are advising anyone that's coming into Manhattan to not come into Manhattan around that area, Times Square and Port Authority, because they're trying to handle the crowds right now. Again, one person is in custody at this time, and they're trying to figure out if there's anyone else involved. Again, pretty chaotic here this morning. People are, as I'm just getting ready for work, and so other people, texting me to make sure I'm okay. I think everyone's just checking on each other. It's totally unexpected. Again, this is a very busy time of the year. A lot of people come here for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. They have a lot of holiday lights, a lot of programs here, so a very busy time with tourists too. So you can imagine adding to the chaos this morning. So that's what we know right now. Again, one person is in custody. One person is also injured. They're trying to figure out if there's any other people that have been injured, but we know that one other person has been injured with non-life-threatening injuries this morning.
All right, Fatima, and as we've been discussing all along and reminding our viewers as well of how this attack coming very close on the heels of that attack that was witnessed in Manhattan around Halloween. In terms of security, Fatima, what have you understood in terms of the intensification or the beefing up of security over the last few weeks, which has been witnessed on ground in New York City?
You know, people who live in Manhattan, I feel like, unfortunately, they have become immune to the situation. No one likes to hear the situation, you know, on a morning when they get up. But as long as it doesn't affect them, they kind of go on with their day. There has been a lot of security. Obviously, this is a time of year where a lot of tourists are coming in, so police are just high on alert everywhere. I have gone into the city. I see a lot more presence of police officers, police patrol cars around the city. So I have seen, between Halloween and now, I've just seen a lot more police presence. And that's pretty normal here because of the fact that so many tourists come into town, going to different sites here. So it looks like this morning, police pretty much got a hold of the person that may have been responsible for this pretty fast. And that's because, again, they are on high alert. And but people in Manhattan, I think they're just going to go about their day. If it's not affecting them, it's just another thing. Unfortunately, this is a situation that we certainly have become immune to.
Fortunately, indeed, that is the sentiment that's been coming in from Manhattan and across United States as well. Archit, as Fatima is just pointing out, Manhattan, of course, as a result of the spate of terror attacks that have continued to loom large, the kind of security measures that we've seen being intensified over the last few weeks. But having said that, this attack assuming significance coming at one of the busiest bus terminals in New York City.
Absolutely, Molly. You know, this time, especially in a Monday morning as people are getting ready to go to work, it is a very busy time there. New York City, of course, attracting a lot of tourists. This is happening in and around the Times Square area, 42nd and 8th. Right now, reports are saying that the man had strapped some sort of device on himself to cause that explosion. Again, the good news at this point is authorities were able to get to that scene really quickly. But in terms of security in New York City, New Yorkers are always vigilant. They've dealt with situations like this, terror attacks after 9/11, time and time again. As we mentioned, the Halloween attack where a man rammed down innocent passengers. So New York is a city, there's a lot of people, so it also makes it easy for suspects and attackers to create confusion and panic because of the sheer volume of people in and around that region. Whether it's a weekend or a weekday, there's always people, there's traffic. This is midtown Manhattan. 42nd and 8th is a very busy area. So this is an area where people are coming in and out. This is the Port Authority bus terminal. So those areas are now evacuated. Many of the train lines underneath the subway lines, the A line, the C line, evacuated at this point. Many of the trains, in fact, are skipping that station because of the ongoing activity. So right now, still a lot of unknowns. No word on the suspect, no word on his name or identity, no word on the device, but certainly authorities trying to piece together whether this was a lone wolf attack or whether or not this was related to perhaps a larger terror outfit.
Stay with me, both Archit, and requesting Fatima to also stay on with us, please, as we get our viewers just some quick updates that are trickling in. Reminder, just a very scanty information that's trickling in as we continuously monitor the minute-by-minute developments. The only person injured in the New York blast is the male suspect. That's the latest word that's coming in from the police. Law enforcement officials telling news agencies that the man had an explosive device strapped on when it exploded in the New York City subway. Donald Trump has now been briefed on that explosion which took place in New York City. This coming at a peak time around 8 a.m. is when this explosion was reported. Minutes later, this is the minute-by-minute information that has trickled in so far. This is just to let our viewers know as well, for those who might not be aware, the Port Authority bus terminal, which is one of the largest and one of the busiest bus terminals in New York City, imagine a peak time like 8 a.m. when most people are getting to work, an explosion occurring. But as of now, the only casualty that the police has reported so far is the only person injured in that New York blast is the male suspect. We do know that the arterial roads have all been cleared as efforts are being made by the counterterrorism officials racing against time to clear all the commuters from that bus station. In terms of the details on the suspect, there's very little that we know, Archit, in terms of the only casualty of that incident has been that male suspect. That's pretty much all that we know about the suspect at this point. I'll just come back to you, Archit. Fatima, let me take that across to you as well. Very scanty information that has trickled in so far. Of course, extremely initial information that we have about the suspect. If you can elaborate for our viewers, if we do have more details on who the suspect is.
Yeah, I mean, look, it only happened a little bit more than an hour ago, so we don't know much about the suspect. What we do know, though, it's a pipe bomb, which it's a pipe explosion, right? So we don't know the severity of it, but it's not as a big explosion as any other type of bomb. It's something that may have been small. We just know that one person has been injured, and we're not hearing of any other injuries. So it looks like it's a relatively small bomb. We don't know if it has shrapnel or any other type of, maybe even fertilization. They sometimes use fertilizers. So we don't know what type of pipe bomb. But a pipe bomb usually is kind of a low-level bomb. And we're not hearing of, again, any other injuries. So the severity seems, it's still a bomb and it still hurts somebody, but it's not as big as we are thinking. So I think the police are just trying to get to the bottom of this. Is this homemade? Is this somebody messing around? We don't know much of the suspect. It's too soon to know right now. But again, they're trying to see if anyone's connected. And you can imagine how hard that must be in Times Square and Port Authority when the crowds are humongous. They have to do this fast. They have to get through any of the suspects fast because, there's just too many people. So to take care of that, I think they're doing a pretty good job when they have at least one person in custody.
All right. So Fatima are telling us that there is a confirmation on the front that this was a pipe bomb explosion.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there a confirmation that you're giving us on this being a pipe bomb explosion? Is that confirmed?
Yes, that's what we're hearing, that this is a pipe bomb explosion at this time. We don't know how big it is, but with the information coming in, we don't know if it has shrapnel, but it seems like a relatively low-level bomb. It's a pipeline bomb, yes.
All right. Archit, as we've been discussing all along, there is very little that we do know about the suspect at this point. This attack taking place just a little more than an hour back. But we do have confirmed reports about this being a pipe bomb explosion taking place at one of the largest and busiest bus terminals in New York City. One suspect is now in custody. The only casualty is the male suspect in that attack. Officials, of course, giving out the initial details, talking about the evacuation process that has been undertaken. The bus terminal area and the adjacent arterial roads have all been cleared and cordoned off as a result. Archit, do we have any further updates from the NYPD department?
At this point, Molly, the NYPD department is saying that they have released information about the suspect, saying that he is a man. That's the latest they're giving, but they're not releasing his name. They're not releasing his age or perhaps even a motive. That's because more than likely at this point, he will be taken for evaluation. He'll be questioned by authorities to find out what exactly led to this. What we do know from authorities at this point is he had strapped on some sort of a pipe bomb device. No word if this was homemade or how he obtained this device and then headed to that area. Certainly we can infer that this was more than likely targeted because 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, that's a busy time in New York City, in midtown Manhattan. And that area by Times Square is certainly a very busy area full of commuters waiting for the train, waiting for the bus, waiting to go to work. So this more than likely was well planned to a certain extent. But again, we don't know if this was meant to cause some sort of a terror attack, if this was a suicide attempt, all of those missing pieces of the puzzle. What we do know at this point is that the suspect has been taken into custody. U.S. President Donald Trump has been informed about the situation. He has been briefed, and the mayor of New York City is on his way right now to the scene, to midtown Manhattan, to evaluate the situation. And as you can see there on the left of your screen, a heavy presence of police, fire trucks, ambulances, and the only person at this point hurt in this explosion in New York City is the suspect himself, the man responsible for carrying that pipe bomb. We do also understand at this hour that many of the train services running in and around that area are not stopping at 42nd station because of what is happening above ground. So they are not taking any chances evacuating that. So many of the lines evacuated or skipping that station altogether near Times Square. So again, the incident taking place about an hour ago in the area 42nd and 8th.
Absolutely. That is how the information that has come in so far is stacking up as we continue to piece together the sequence of events. This explosion that was reported just around 8 a.m. New York local time, taking place at one of the largest bus terminals, the Port Authority bus terminal in New York City. The male suspect is in custody. He was injured as a result of that confrontation with the security personnel. That entire area being cordoned off. This coming at a busy time like 8 a.m. when most people are trying to get to work. This also coming at a time when New York has just about grappled with that explosion, with that attack which occurred around Halloween as well. We've seen an intensification of security across New York City as a result of that attack. This latest attack is an explosion which has been reported, which has left New York on the edge yet again. This taking place as a result of which at least one person has been taken into custody. We do not know further details about the suspect. Officials saying the suspect had a pipe bomb strapped to his body. That is a confirmation that has been trickling in. The suspect is also the only one to sustain injuries in that incident. Police and firefighters are at the spot. The train lines below the Port Authority building have now all been evacuated. U.S. President Donald Trump has been briefed about the incident as we continue to track the latest on the pieces of information that have trickled in so far. Archit, we also, as Fatima was just pointing out, have a confirmation on how this was a pipe bomb explosion. We will, of course, wait for further confirmations coming in from the New York Police Department. But the significance of this being a pipe bomb also is a lot. And this, of course, coming at a time when security across New York City has been intensified.
Absolutely, Molly. I mean, that is a key part of the puzzle as police investigate the situation. We do know it's a pipe bomb. We do know the man had strapped it on himself. And we do know that he had picked this area more than likely because it was a busy area, a busy time of the morning. 42nd and 8th is certainly packed this morning around 7:30. So happening around an hour ago. And to put things into perspective, you know, New York City has been on edge ever since 9/11, 16 years ago when they dealt with the terror attacks. And then a few months ago, of course, the situation of the Halloween attack where a man ran down innocent passengers in the financial district. So New Yorkers always on edge. And New York generally is a city that, as we say, the city that never sleeps. There's always people in and about, shoppers, workers, employees, construction workers. People are always there. Of course, Times Square, a busy area with tourists. Now, at this point, what investigators will focus on is, did this man perhaps have a wider link? Perhaps other attackers that were spread out at other points? Or was this a lone wolf attack? Was he trying to cause harm, a terror attack? Or was this perhaps a suicide attempt? Those are still missing pieces of the puzzle. We do know that it was a man who had strapped the pipe bomb. We don't know his name, his age, his ethnicity. It'll also be interesting to find out if authorities in fact call this a terror attack or not. So that is, of course, a big wait and watch game. The only person who was hurt was this man himself, who had strapped that pipe bomb on himself to cause an explosion. Again, a lot of video coming in now on social media. Look at that presence there of ambulances, fire fire rescue operators, police officers. Certainly a lot happening there as security personnel get to the scene really quickly there on a busy Monday morning in New York City. The mayor, we also understand, is on his way to Midtown Manhattan. U.S. President Donald Trump also briefed about the situation and the incident. Again, 42nd and 8th, that is the area we're talking about in Midtown Manhattan. Many of the train systems that run underground on the subway are skipping that station, skipping 42nd and moving on to other stops. So if you are in that area or you work in that area, more than likely there will be significant delays on this Monday morning. The time now they're a little bit before 9 in the morning at this point. So still a lot unfolding in New York City this morning after an explosion in New York City as trains are evacuated around the Port Authority station in Times Square.
Also thanking Fatima Rahmatullah, who joined us on the broadcast, and also Nick Harper, our correspondent from New York, and Archit Chaudhary getting us the latest from the newsroom. With that, it's a wrap on this edition for now. Do stay tuned to World is One News, though.